In Haruki Murakami's memoir, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, Murakami explains that the reason he loves running every single day is that when he runs in a void. He then thinks on this for a moment and corrects the words, saying instead that he runs to acquire a void. What does he mean by this? I feel the word void presents frightening images of black nothingness, a perpetual liminal space where there is no escape, death even. But the void Murakami is yearning for is something more comforting. He loves to run because when he runs, it is his only purpose in that moment. Running allows him to block out everything else around him and exist only within his own movements. Running puts him into a separate mental world from everything else. It puts him in a void. Everything else around him is secondary or even insignificant. It may as well shouldn't be there. Murakami compares this void to the sky, and like the sky has clouds, his mind will have the occasional thought while he runs. But just like clouds pass by but the sky remains, the thoughts pass by but the void remains. Decisions and conclusions coming instantaneously, no complications. I think it is fair to say within these descriptions that Murakami reaches a zen-like state while running. It especially summarizes the Taoist idea of wu-wei very well. Wu-wei has been directly translated to English as non-doing or not acting, which has sadly harmed the reputation of the concept, people assuming it literally means living life not doing a damn thing. And while non-doing may be a literal translation, a better interpretation of wu-wei is to describe it as effortless action. When you enter a flow state and do tasks or live life without anything impeding you, your body, mind, and soul acting as one to move through actions effortlessly. The topic of this video, though, while it has much to do with Zen and wu-wei, is not about Haruki Murakami, though he is strangely well-fitting to the topic, both in regards to his Zen-like attitude to running in a void, but also because Murakami is well known for his surrealist writing and very liminal environments and themes. Murakami, probably you, and definitely I, find liminality interesting. It's pretty big in pop culture right now. I would say it's most well known for its relation to its visual aesthetics and horror, in things like the Backrooms. But I also believe there's a strange comfort to be found in liminality, comfort to be found in a void. And I recently played a video game that was able to capture these feelings within me perfectly. Dreamcore. Dreamcore is not an outright horror game. You're never in any real danger or being pursued by a scary monster entity. And while certainly it gets spooky, the core of the game is exploration focused. And it is really memorable to me for two things. The first is that it nails the liminal aesthetic, hitting various popular liminal spaces perfectly, understanding what makes them engaging, evoking in me that strange void comfort and nostalgic longing. And secondly, it is the closest a game has gotten, for me at least, to entering this zen-like flow state while in a video game, running through a void, not in fear, but in effortless action. Dreamcore is the epitome of what exploration should be in a liminal space game. You're free to explore wherever, and will rarely hit a dead end, and never a fail state. You just keep going, turn after turn, room after room, and it constantly feels as if you can't find the exit. But rather than that being frustrating, it is weirdly both engaging and relaxing. It makes a zen-like gameplay experience, where, rather than fearfully trying to consider each decision you make, you instead go with the flow, letting the feeling of doing guide you more than the process of thinking. The first level presented in Dreamcore, Dream Pools, accomplishes this especially. The complex is made up of what feels like thousands of indoor pool rooms, and it is insanely easy and fun to explore. The journey through each room feels genuinely unique despite the hundreds of turns you're going to make, in what should be a very limited aesthetic, pools. But it's anything but limited. Every room is a fascinating display of this particular aesthetic, with near endless variations that are sometimes visually gorgeous, and almost always interesting. And while this makes for a calm exploration where you don't need to consider something like a monster chasing you or a puzzle to solve, or a right decision to make, it also makes tangible the horror of an endless feeling environment. And the way Dreamcore communicates this is far better than dozens of more straightforward horror games. You feel yourself genuinely getting lost while journeying through the complex, but not because an enemy drove you down a specific corridor. Instead, you get lost through your own mindless turns. You realize as you move further and further that you may never find an escape, because this place feels never-ending. Perhaps it is never-ending. You can try and go in one direction for hours and never find the exit. When you do end up in a room you've been in before, you struggle to remember how you got there, both this time and the first. Actually, were you ever even really here? Or does this room just look similar to that other one? The rooms are both uniform in theme, but also deeply unique in their differences, with strange new anomalies to see, both in the pools themselves, but also in new things, like, say, a monolithic statue. The biggest thing is that the scale of the pool rooms feels impossible. I think that my toxic trait is that when watching a horror movie and I see characters get lost in it, I think, nah, I could remember the turns I took. These people are idiots for getting lost in this haunted mansion. But I've discovered because of Dreamcore, I probably wouldn't be able to trace my steps, actually. I would get lost within like 4 turns if I'm running. Maybe not, though. Because the reason it happens so easily in Dreamcore is because of the effortless exploration. If you carefully considered every turn and every room you went into, maybe you'd remember the details easily and not get lost. But if you did that in Dreamcore, it would take hours and hours to go through one of the levels. If you're the actual person in this environment, you'd probably die of starvation if you took the time to consider every single turn in every single room. You have to get lost, you have to run. In a mansion, you're limited by physical space, but you aren't in Dreamcore. A lot of the game feels non-Euclidean and sometimes literally is. Despite that, there's always a rhyme and a reason to the way most levels are explored, and they are almost always, at least when the game is hitting its stride, focused on effortless exploration. In that effortless action of exploration, you take joy in. Seeing new sights constantly, not having to consider your own fears and worries, just moving, existing in the void. But while it's joyful, it's also the thing that dooms you, getting you hopelessly lost because you're so caught up in the enjoyment of moving that you forgot to think. Despite the lack of traditional horror moments, you get terrified regardless, not the way a prey does while being chased by a predator, but something more existential. Because you realize you really are trapped in something that feels like it could be endless. Miles and miles and miles of thick walls, faux lights, and your own thoughts. Like you are wandering through a never-ending dream or childhood memory, lucidly floating around, but with no goal or insight in mind, just existing in an echo of an echo. Dreamcore, despite this open-ended nature, does have an objective for each of the 5 levels. They aren't just playgrounds. Well, with the exception of one level, Dead Mall, which tells you up front to just explore. For the other levels, the goal is always the same, to escape through finding an elevator. The 5 levels are Dream Pools, Eternal Suburbia, Liminal Hotel, Playrooms, and Dead Mall, all based after classic liminal spaces. I will be upfront and say I preferred some levels to the others. In particular, I think that Dream Pools and Suburbia are my favorites, with Hotel easily being the worst in my opinion. But I think people's own personal preferences and experiences and fears would shape which level sticks with them the most. Despite the goal to escape through an elevator being the same, the methods to get to that elevator are different for every level. And it's worth noting that there is no story or lore for Dreamcore. Similarly, the levels can be played in any order, and they're treated as if they are each their own game, or more accurately, their own found footage movie or analog horror video, with new opening titles, end credits, and so on. So you can play them in whatever order you want. Despite these differences, the formula for each is very similar though. You wake up in your chosen level, pick up a camera, and explore. In some cases like Dream Pools, you will find your goal immediately. In the first room after you come out of a slide, you walk down to the first pool and find a door into a dark area, but it tells you that you need a flashlight to get into it. Goal acquired, find a flashlight, enter the dark room, go from there. But for the other levels, you'll have to explore for a while before you eventually find the way you're supposed to advance. In Dream Pools, even though you have the goal to find the flashlight, how to find the flashlight isn't obvious. Due to this open-ended nature, it encourages that feeling of getting lost in exploration. Keep running until you find something amiss that can point you to that flashlight. As you explore, you'll eventually come across strange music that gets louder the closer you get. The music carries a long way too, so it can be hard to pinpoint where it is coming from exactly. And once you hear this music, that is the moment the effortless exploration has to pause, and you have to think. Tracing the sound, you find it is coming from an old radio, and there in front of it is the flashlight. The radio and flashlight's location is randomized as well, though it's typically in a out-of-the-way hidden spot. So really you have to get lost in exploration, since overthinking it can't help you. And from a meta level, there's no use following a guide if the guide is just pointing you towards, 20 hard-to-find locations. It's easier to just happen upon it. Just keep running in your void and listen. Listening is the key to solving the majority of levels. And it helps that the sound design is very good. Your footfalls when running become so loud sometimes that you have to stop yourself and question if you actually heard something, or if it's just a trick of your ears. The environments sound alive, although maybe alive isn't the right word. They sound realistically dark and eerie, and like an actual VHS recording. It has this constant static to it. It puts you into the role of being this cameraman lost in this insane environment. And when the ambient soundtrack comes in, it always makes for a memorable moment. Dream Pools is the strongest level in regards to attaining that effortless exploration I keep raving on about. And getting the flashlight and going downstairs is actually only the first half of the Dream Pools level. In the dark depths below is its own massive area, with even a hidden third area in it as well. Despite my love of Dream Pools, for me the scariest and most memorable area of the game was Eternal Suburbia. Coincidentally, I covered another game on the channel a while ago called Fatum Betula, and the segment of that game that stuck with me the most was also its version of a liminal Endless Suburbia. Something about this specific setting freaks me out, and I believe I found why. I didn't grow up in a suburb, but I did grow up in a small town in the south, so a lot of the iconography isn't too foreign from what I'm used to. I have a set of memories that return to my mind from time to time that bother me. I'm young, but not overly young. Let's call it about 10 to 12 years old. I'm running down the sidewalk of my street. It's right at the very beginning of dawn. While there is light, there's also an overwhelming darkness that pervades everything. And I'm just running. I feel my bare feet in the concrete. I'm only in my pajama bottoms. Something doesn't feel right. I'm not yet scared, just on edge. I look back at my house and there's no light in the windows. I look at the other houses and no people are stirring awake. There are no birds chirping, no cicada song. There is nothing or no one pursuing me, and yet I still run. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I enjoy the feeling of it. My body in motion, the freedom of nothing and no one around. Just me and the movement. I have acquired a void, but not the kind Murakami does. This void is fragile and could break any moment. But I continue. I reach the top of a hill that, during the day, I skateboard on. It's usually a comforting spot for me, a place where me and my friends hang out. But right now it terrifies me. The trees that give me shade and comfort during the day are giant, covered in shadow, and completely lifeless. They feel overwhelming, like a wall I can't climb over. And with no light to show the road or the houses beyond its peak, I run back down, back towards my house. The void I had is broken. And the whole time I run back, I am fearing that I will be seen or that I will see nothing. And both of these possibilities scare me equally. The joy I had of my body in motion, the comfort I had of being alone to do whatever I wanted, is gone, and I am only terrified. I get close. I'm running beside the house with a big yard across the street from mine. I see a car slowly driving down the road in the distance. The headlights aren't on, or maybe they are, but they're just dim. Regardless, I'm so frightened of it, and I decide that I can't be seen by it. I move off the sidewalk and into my neighbor's lawn. Realistically, I can't hide in it. The grass is trimmed short, and the only cover to speak of is a set of 2 thin trees and a mailbox. Still, I lay down against the grass, feeling it all over my skin. As I lay there and listen, the only thing in that surrounding of nothingness is the wheels on concrete, but then it stops. I can now hear the engine humming, but nothing else. I can't bear to look up at the car, by this terrible feeling that something isn't right. That's where the memory ends. This must be a dream, I tell myself whenever I think about it, but I always find myself convinced that it can't be. It's absurdly vivid. It feels so real. I know the feeling of the grass on my skin while hiding. I know the feeling of the concrete against my bare feet. I know the feeling of running only in pajama bottoms, the cool air going against me. It feels so real. It sticks in my mind as an event, one that I have neatly placed on a bookshelf of memory. Yet where it sits, its cover is differently colored than the other spines. And even worse, this is just one memory I have along these lines. I have many of me running along that sidewalk at that same time of dawn. Sometimes I'm taking joy in the solitude and freedom it offers, and other times I am terrified of the houses and all that is around me. Sometimes there's a car, sometimes there's nothing. I know it's not real, but it feels real. This series of memories came back to me most recently while playing the eternal Suburbia level of Dreamcore. I hope you didn't mind indulging me my strange memories of vivid dreams, but for this game to invoke in me this real childhood feeling of terror is testament to its quality, and also proof that it lives up to its name, Dreamcore. I've always had a strange relationship with sleep and dreams. When I was a teenager especially, they were tough on me, with intense, deeply vivid nightmares, sleep paralysis, and so on, sometimes nightly. But it grew within me an appreciation for when art portrays dreams, surrealism, dissociation, and liminality well. The Suburbia level is the highlight of the game for me, even if I found Dream Pools the strongest level in terms of exploration. Suburbia has many stages and is far larger than it appears, working like you're trapped in the center of a labyrinth within a labyrinth within a labyrinth. Suburbia also has what I would consider the only true horror moments of the game. I became convinced while playing that something was following or chasing after me, despite the fact nothing was. Suburbia plays with sound a lot. There's a day and night cycle that passes by very quickly. During the day, from speakers spread all over the suburb, loud music plays. At first, the music freaked me out. It felt creepy and off-putting, but I came to crave its company the longer I spent in the suburb. It comforted me because I knew during the day there would be something to accompany me, even if it was just a soundscape, because at night the music goes away, and it is completely silent except for footfalls. At first. But then you begin hearing the sound of doors opening and closing behind you. The first time I heard these, it made me pause. It freaked me out so bad. I felt like I was being followed after, and it made me run. Not in the joy of exploration, but in that childhood terror of wanting to be away from something, of wanting to escape, of wanting to leave the nightmare. And I think that horror is what really sold Dreamcore to me. The zen of the pools drew me in. The childhood terror of Suburbia kept me hooked. Suburbia for a while feels without any clear goal. Unlike pool rooms, there are no immediate signs to look at. The design of Suburbia is also very disorienting at first, because the streets aren't really streets, but instead interconnected backyards divided by picket fences, connecting one house to another or sometimes several. It feels random at first, aimless, but if you take note of your surroundings, you'll notice something breaking up the monotony of the houses and backyards. A water tower looming in the distance. And while Dream Pools felt like it physically couldn't exist, there were no moments of clear non-Euclidean nonsense that couldn't connect. But Suburbia has interiors far too large for how they look on the outside. The interiors of the houses became short mazes. To get to the water tower, you have to go to specific houses that connect to specific fenced-off yards that connect to other specific fenced-off yards. But sometimes you have to take a really roundabout way because a house won't connect to a backyard like you think it should. And when you do see a house as a door that connects to a backyard you want to get into, you enter the house and find that the door isn't where it should be up ahead. The house outside is small. No way to hide this many rooms, but when you enter, you find there's an upstairs. You go up, around corners, back downstairs into several rooms, none that could exist in that small frame. But finally you will find a door, just not in the place you'd imagine. This makes you get so disoriented. When you make your way to the water tower, it'll direct you to the true exit, the edge of suburbia which can be seen from the tower. Getting to the edges feels exciting. Seeing that there are no more houses, only a rim to follow along, and it feels surreal. Admittedly, it's less interesting because you only have one direction to go, but it's a very satisfying moment to get to. When you finally get to that final house, you find signs trying to scare you away from leaving, and the only real jump scare of the entire game happens. The speakers that usually play the music give instead a loud siren, and I swear I heard the sounds of the doors opening and closing behind me become shockingly loud and more frequent too. It made me run and run to the exit, too scared to look behind myself. Finally, you find a Truman Show-like door out, and the suburbia is revealed to be in a dome-like structure, a crudely painted child approximation of the sky marking the borders. Taking the door out, you enter a complex that feels like a mix between an office space and underground metro. Wandering through it for minutes upon minutes, hoping you're free, hoping you will find the way out. Except, as you find the path forward, there is no freedom for you. A place that you thought might lead you out is instead directly to another endless suburb. But this one is different. A different style of street, different style of house. The reveal of the second suburb was so good to me. Both disheartening in the way that you have the rug pulled out from under you. You think you're out, but then, nope, you are still trapped. But it's also exciting to get more of this environment that I love, and not just a repeat of the first design. When you get to the ending of Suburbia and find the elevator out, you hear knocks in the elevator door as you escape. It was such a memorable moment for me because I convinced myself that the door noises I was hearing were potentially just tricks of the ear. But no, this implies that someone or something was after you. And the implications of that are far scarier than any spookily designed analog horror monster. It was so good, just a masterpiece of a level. Dreamcore also evokes in me what a lot of liminal space art hopes to, and that is nostalgia. I was born in 2000 and grew up in the 2000s, obviously, great script. Because of that, vestiges of the 90s and 80s were still in many of the buildings I was growing up in. And to be honest, for many places, I think that the early 2000s were more or less just a direct continuation of the late 90s, as much as Big 90s tries to tell you otherwise. Most early 2000s kids can relate to 99% of the things that show up in those "only 90s kids remember this" posts. Especially in places like the south of the US where culture takes longer to catch up. Because of that, I have immense nostalgia for many things presented in Dreamcore. The carpet pattern of the arcade in the mall is classic. The weird indoor pools I remember having to go past when I had to use the bathroom at my local pool. And they were always empty and eerie, going from the excitement of dozens of people outside swimming to just this sterile nothingness inside. I would hurry to the bathroom and hurry again back outside. I know, of course, indoor pools are still around and are a normal thing, but it stuck with me as a childhood memory, and clearly many people had something similar too. The playroom level especially has a core memory for me. A childhood friend of mine had a birthday party in a warehouse with bouncy castles and oversized kids' toys, and anytime I was away from the main group, it felt like the spookiest thing in existence. Surrounded by all of these massive things in a building all alone. The sounds of my friends distant and far away or somehow disappeared. Very spooky. The playroom's level is also unique because it is made up of essentially many smaller levels, which is a nice formula break. It also has the clearest goal from the start, to go to all the mini levels and find buttons to press that open a gate back at the beginning, and you can escape through it. Like Dream Pools, it's pretty heavily focused on as you're running through the level, the placement of the buttons being randomized, guaranteed to have one at each location though, meaning you have to just acquire your void and get to running, listening for the hum of the engine around the button. Circling back around to nostalgia though, I have intense nostalgia for hotels. Growing up, my family would take us on miniature vacations now and again. We weren't super well off, but we still had enough money for an occasional weekend-long stay at a budget to mid-range hotel in a neighboring town. And as long as it had a pool, I would be ecstatic. spending all day in the hotel pool, and maybe an activity in town before going back to relax in the room. The hotel level of Dreamcore should be a home run for me. It should be so easy to evoke some feeling in me, since even now I find budget to mid-range hotels super nostalgic and comfortable. I legitimately seek out YouTube videos that review normal hotels, and I enjoy watching those walkthroughs more than the reviews of expensive luxury ones, because they're just that cozy to me. But the liminal hotel level in Dreamcore evokes nothing in me, because it doesn't feel like it's doing anything. The reason Dream Pools worked so well is because though it had a theme that should be limiting on paper, it found a way to make each pool room feel unique. But every single hotel room in Liminal Hotel feels completely boring in its randomness. In fact, it feels barely random at all. I can remember dozens of the pool rooms, even right now, because they had something to them. But the hotel rooms all felt samey because the randomization feels so minor. The fact that every hotel door is locked into an animation that is clearly hiding a minor loading screen doesn't help either. Suburbia also had this hidden loading screen door, but it was way easier to stomach because you weren't going through doors as quickly as this. There were journeys in between them. The rooms don't even feel unnatural in an interesting way, more in a shovelware PS1 game that didn't have the graphical budget to put more than a bed and a couch in here way. There's nothing interesting about them aside from, ooh, this room is slightly longer and has 2 bathrooms. They're just slightly wacky. The way that Liminal Hotel is laid out and the goal that it has also makes it impossible to attain that effortless exploration I love so much. Both due to the constant door animations, but also because the goal to get near the bottom of the hotel to flip a generator on makes exploring not worthwhile. Taking elevators down to other floors is the main form of progression, but every elevator can easily be found because they are almost all on the edges of the hotel. There's a neat idea in the fact that you can orient to where you are in the hotel by looking out of the windows, seeing that iconic liminal hotel with an interior courtyard. All this exists to do is help you realize you're in the middle and you need to get to the edges, since that is the only thing to do. Run in one direction, opening doors that are in that direction until you hit a wall, and then keep going left or right, and keep doing that until you find an elevator. And that is so boring when there is nothing to see when traveling to the edges, and nothing to see when going along the edges. The bottom switches this up a little bit, with, get this, some pools, and some conference rooms, but it's too little too late. This design also makes the hotel feel not endless. Every other place has felt massive, but this one just feels like a weird hotel with clearly defined edges. And those edges being so clearly defined makes it far less spooky. The other levels feel handcrafted, but Liminal Hotel feels like it is a procedurally generated game that you buy for $2. The ending of Hotel also randomly becomes a Twin Peaks reference. I mean, the Great Northern is pretty important to Twin Peaks and it is a hotel, but none of the floors of the hotel felt or looked like the Great Northern. I really love Twin Peaks and David Lynch, like a lot. But even this was underwhelming since it was just the same hallway again and again with minimal difference, aside from having a Black Lodge coat of paint. And I need more than just keys jangled at me going, ooh, remember Twin Peaks? I want you to do something with that. Give me more than Black Lodge themed hallways. Liminal Hotel is easily the weakest level for me, which is a shame since it should be such an easy concept to work for me. Overall though, Dreamcore is a great experience. I hope I've made that clear. I didn't touch on playrooms and mall that much because I want people who enjoyed this video but are interested in the game to have little to no spoilers for them. Playrooms I enjoy a lot, and aside from pool rooms it has that wu-wei style of design down pat, with some fun, fascinating sights, and it feels genuinely endless like pool rooms. Mall is neat because its endless nature lets you relax even more than the other levels. It just tells you up front to explore that there is no goal, and there is value to be had in that. As a complaint though, I do wish that more of the stores were enterable, rather than only the huge pre-designed maze ones. And I don't even need much in there, just empty racks and things like that. But the sections that are designed and do exist are very strongly designed. It's lightning in a bottle when a game makes you feel visceral emotion, especially when it is a game lacking a story. But Dreamcore nailed what it was trying to do for me, at least with a couple of its levels. So much so that it made me remember vivid dreams that pop into my mind every few years that deeply bother me because they feel so real. Dreams are a weirdly personal topic for me, due to my pretty negative relationship with them. But man, do I love art that evokes them well. And this is some damn good dream art. Dreamcore accomplishes what its name is trying to sell you in most ways that you could want, without being a cliché monster horror experience. Instead, it's focused on effortless exploration and a more existential type of horror that arises from inside you. Dreamcore showcases to me the zen of liminality more than any other video game trying to do this aesthetic. Thank you for watching, and thank you especially to my patrons. On the Kindred Eccentric tier, Fred Greisen, Mateo Feo, and newcomer Kushana. On the Wise Hermit tier, Andrew Raver, Tired Cass, and Kamihog Yuji. Thank you all so much for your support and your patience, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And of course that goes to my non-patron viewers as well. If you do want to support me, check out my Patreon. On Patreon I do have a couple of exclusive videos, my most recent one being over an hour long of me reading and reviewing 3 Lovecraft stories, and I plan to continue to do that. So you get 3 audiobooks and 3 reviews all in one go. Also, yes, I checked. The Lovecraft stories that I chose are public domain, so it's legal. Anyways, more stuff to come soon. Hope you enjoyed everything. This has been your Resident Eccentric, and I will see you again. Farewell.
A little bird told me that you've been asking around town about a resident eccentric. I'd like to know why.